He's going to bring me a speaker that I requested. Looks like he's probably talking to somebody and didn't see this. So if the other Sennheiser guy comes walking in with a Neumann speaker, we'll let him in. So this is recording for Gearcast, right? Is that right? Yeah, but is it still called Gearcast or not really?
I'm not sure.
Okay, okay,
They don't have that anywhere in the house.
okay. Okay.
I want a pair of monitor speakers earlier.
You know what? Did you want a pair?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And there must have been, I don't know, I'm guessing $500 maybe.
Wow, cool.
And I almost won a $200 set of headphones.
Nice.
It would have been an awesome day if I had got the headphones.
You're all set.
Yeah. My Amazon stock skyrocketed, so that's good.
With their in-home delivery?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
No, I heard there's planning that.
Yeah. Something now, Amazon Key, where if you allow it, they will actually go into your house and put the box in your house. So that's a little scary.
They're smart.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy, boy. He's going to take over, and he's
Yeah.
getting into groceries now at Whole Foods, and he's going to get into pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
They're going to be in everything.
Yeah, that's crazy. By Amazon.
Yeah, I know. I should have just kept my bought and sold, and I would have been better off just holding it over the years.
I guess we might as well do this. Will we leave the door open, or should we shut that, or what should we do here? Okay. I think we can do it. You good? We all set?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, everybody, hello and welcome. Welcome to the Full Compass 40th anniversary celebration. It's good to be here. My name's Eric Reese from Sennheiser and Neumann. How many people knew that Sennheiser owns Neumann? A couple people? Okay. So I get that a lot. A lot of people see the two logos together. It was just at AES last week and WFX the week before, and got a lot of questions. Well, why is the Neumann logo in the Sennheiser booth? And the answer is, well, since 1991, it's been essentially the same company. Neumann sales and marketing is run separate, but Sennheiser bought them out in 1991. And actually, it goes back, it's kind of a cool story, but both Fritz Sennheiser and Jörg Neumann were colleagues in Germany and had a mutual respect and understanding with each other, and kind of had a gentleman's agreement that if something ever happens to my company, want the other company to buy it, and so on and so forth. The call happened in 1991, and without question, by the end of the week, Neumann was a Sennheiser brand. So anyway, welcome. We got an exciting, I think it's exciting thing to talk about today. The title is Sennheiser Ambeo 3D Audio Technology. It's really Sennheiser and Neumann. And what Ambeo is kind of a concept. It's kind of a suite of different products, both for on the microphone side for the recording, for the capturing of audio, but then also on the playback side as well, for the immersive experience of three-dimensional audio. So we'll go through, and I'll just give you kind of a teaser of what we're doing and what things look like from the Sennheiser and Neumann standpoint. So for the last however many years, we've talked about surround sound, surround audio. And when we talk about that, we're typically looking at what we call the surround layer. If you think of a 5.1, we started out with stereo, which is two speakers in front of you because we have two ears. Sounds good, right? Okay. Then we got into the whole surround sound world with 5.1 and eventually 7.1. 7.1 really didn't take off as much as we would have liked, or maybe we would have thought or hoped. But essentially in a 5.1 scenario, you have left, center, right, and then you have surround. Well, getting into three-dimensional audio, we're missing that third dimension. So if we add that and look at dimensions up and even top layer, actually we won't talk too much about top layer now, but we'll talk about dimensions up here. When you add those dimensions, the extra space is really when you start to get enveloped and immersed in audio. If we go to a live concert, we all know what that experience is like. We've got a PA in front of us, a band making noise, you got stage noise coming off the stage, you got surrounded by audience, people yelling, the guy right behind you singing way too loud, which is always annoying. That always happens to me. I get that guy behind me. But we've got all sorts of things going on that add to our experience. So the whole idea of this is to try to bring in that dimension of that experience to a different setting, whether it's headphones, whether it's in a home theater or a home studio or you name it. So that's kind of where we're going, what we're trying to do here with this.
I missed the first, there was a descriptor slide before all that. I want to kind of see that, I'll read that real quick.
It was just a definition. I just kind of basically said what I just did in a nutshell. Okay, so on the input side, we'll first talk about that, and we'll talk about Sennheiser and Neumann, where we're coming from. Is anybody familiar with this guy? Okay, this is Fritz. This is the binaural head. One of my favorite microphones, and I think I was just talking to Jonathan Lipp, owner of Full Compass here, and for the longest time they kept these in stock, and his intent is to have these. These are some of his favorite microphones, and it's kind of neat. Most people out there might not have seen this. It's kind of a talking point. What's really fun is, especially if you get a chance to work with one or take it out to a show or do some recording, it's also a cool talking piece. Because everybody's like, what is that head on that pole? I know we've done some things around the area where we've done different recordings, and actually he ships the wind muffs, the windscreens look like headphones, which is kind of funny, and I get pictures and notes from people that say they put a sombrero on him for the whatever fest, or they put a cowboy hat on him or whatever. It's fun to dress up Fritz. But again, integrated in here, 2 microphones. It's set up to get the binaural representation for what the human head is hearing. So that's, a long time ago, 1992, we started doing that on the Neumann side. Fast forward a few years, I don't think anybody's ever seen this. And in fact, until a couple weeks ago, I had never seen this. But in 1999, we actually came out with something for gaming called the Surrounder. Again, trying to put people in the gaming world and surround them with the different noises, with the different sounds of that virtual world in the game. So if you ever find one of these, let me know. I would be willing to bet that there are none out in the real world.
Look on eBay.
Look on eBay, yep. But that was actually a thing. I think that was more of a concept car back in 1999. A couple of years ago, we came out with a product, very interesting product, called the Sphera system. What was neat about this? In here in the blimp, we essentially took 2 of our MKH 8000, 8020s, I believe, microphones in an XY pattern, stereo pattern, and used them for recording, and then you go into this processor. From those 2 channels then, you could create your ambient balloon and even steer your directivity with this processing just from those 2 channels. So what we geared this for, and what was somewhat popular for, is the broadcast sporting events. When they're trying to give you that 5.1 surround system live in your room at home for the football game or the whatnot. But the problem with that, recording on site, a lot of the other microphones and technologies out there would take these complex, 5-channel or multi-channel microphones to do that. We found a way to do it and mimic it with a stereo pair. The other thing that's cool here is you could actually do your recording as well, just your 2 channels, and use this device in post later to then do your steering or create your different ambient balloons. Again, this is more thinking in terms of that 5.1, that surround layer, not necessarily vertical. So the next evolution of that, we asked the question of what does the future sound like and where are we going? I mentioned this earlier, that we're trying to take this experience of being totally surrounded and enveloped by the sound into your home, into different experiences, whether it's headphones, whether it's studio monitors, whether it's you name it. Talking about this concept has a lot of different applications. One of the ones that, I don't know if you're too familiar with it, but you can see now is the TV and film. I'm cut off a little bit here, but this is one of those 3D cameras. For a while now, people are trying to develop content in three-dimensional content. Well, we've seen video for the last couple years, you know, with YouTube 360 and things like that, where it's getting more prevalent. But you ever think about it? You ever notice the audio is still stereo? It's not anything special. So if you're looking around 3D, the audio is still whatever your picture was of wherever it was recorded. We're going to change that. Music, we talked about a little bit. Sporting events, really big for home theater systems. We want you to be surrounded by the crowd. We want you to hear that ball being kicked right in front of you. We want you to hear the net or the whatever happens over here in sporting events. Gaming is a big one, virtual reality gaming. We'll talk about that more in a minute. And even we're seeing a lot of applications in travel. We had a travel agent that we were talking to last week in New York City that did these helicopter flights, helicopter tours over New York City. And they're actually buying into a lot of this technology and setting up rooms so that they can give demonstrations to prospective clients or even clients that are signed up to take this, but then at the last minute decide they're not so keen about getting onto a helicopter, so we can set them in the room and give them a very similar experience. 3D surround cameras on the helicopters themselves. You can do the flyover, and now with this technology on the audio side, you can put on some headphones or surrounded by Neumann monitors, and now it's just like you're in that experience without being on a helicopter. Make sense? Yeah. Okay, so virtual reality and augmented reality. This is also a key point. Has everybody done this before, virtual reality, either gaming or where you look around? No? Some people yes, some people no. So you put on these crazy goggles and you turn your head around and all of a sudden you're in this virtual world. Like I said, it's pretty cool, but up until recently, your audio was always the same audio there. Well, now with things like head tracking and microphones now, if we're able to record in this 3D space, we can now place the audio in your virtual world. We have some demos that we had done before in some of the other shows where we have a person in a church playing this piano, and you put on the goggles and you put on your headsets. We have head tracking that go with the headsets, and now I could stand there in this virtual world, listen to the piano being played, and if I turn around like this, the piano goes behind me, and I can hear the reverberation of the room coming back to me just as if I was there. That's where we're going there. This is something interesting that is still emerging, is augmented reality, something that looks something like this, to where now there is an artificial reality superimposed into our real reality. And I've seen some crazy demos of like this. All of a sudden, there is a elephant. There's an elephant. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. With these glasses, I can see this elephant right here, and actually, if I were to walk around, I could walk around the elephant and look at all the different sides or potentially even interact with it. There are companies currently developing this technology that need and want the audio to follow, to go with. So that's where Sennheiser Ambeo comes into the picture. That's what we're trying to give you that experience and recreate that experience from an audio standpoint. How do we do that? Well, one of the first products that we actually have and we're shipping, it's this one. It's an Ambeo microphone. It's pretty cool. I'll pass this around. You do normally use the windscreen in the top, but the windscreen just makes it look like a normal microphone. So I'll pass this around. This is what is called a first order ambisonics microphone. What does that mean? That pattern of the 4 elements in there is specific pattern. And with that pattern, what we can do, that pattern was actually developed, I think it was back in the late 60s, something like that. And what we can do with that, this is more product stuff about that. What we can actually do with that is take that pattern, and based on what we record from that pattern, it's called first order, and when you record into those 4 channels broken out, it's called something A format, which is basically a name for those 4 channels and what they're doing. We can take that information, and once we convert it, I'll show you a picture of our converter, we can convert it to what's called B format. B format gives you an omnidirectional balloon, and then it gives you 3 dimensions, X, Y, Z dimensions of figure 8 microphones, okay? So once we convert it to that format, then we can take that information and use it for all of this other stuff that we talked about. We can code it into a video that we're playing, a 360 video. We pinpoint our center location. We code it in with that, and now if we can do tracking, the audio tracks with that virtual world. So with this microphone and the free download, the plug-in we have here, again, we're taking the A format, all color-coded based on the outputs of the microphone. We go into our filter set. This is where you can actually, if you want to listen in what you're doing, you can rotate this, and that rotates your world. Does that make sense? Puts it into B format, which is omni, figure 8, figure 8, figure 8 in the 3 dimensions. And again, for content developers, then you can use that for your video image, for your game, for your, you name it. Does that make sense? Pretty crazy. Okay, so that's the first scenario. That is, you know, the small 360 videos that are being run around you see these days, taking these videos. That's what that application is for. Now, larger applications, when we're trying to recreate a concert or something like that, we use a setup, a Sennheiser mic technique that we're kind of developing, or at least that works for us for our setup, with multi-channel microphones, more traditional microphones, but set up in different unique ways. Okay, so I think we have a quick little video. Let me see if I can get this to play. I might have to dump out. Actually, I'm going to bypass that right now, but I'll point out what's going on. So we've got a series of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 microphones here. So we set up and actually did this show with actually it was a series of shows, with an orchestra here, and you'll see that we're set up in the air, 10, 12 feet high, with 2 front left and right microphones here. We've got rear microphones here, almost like a 5.1 surround system, with the center channel here as well. In addition to those 5 microphones out in this plane, we also had 4 microphones up much higher and a higher plane. So basically capturing what's happening in the room to recreate this experience more naturally, more open for that orchestra. Make sense? Okay. The way we do that, I'll try clicking again. Okay, the way we've done that in the past, and good microphones for that, is the MKH800 or MKH800 Anybody familiar with these? Okay. Very common microphones, very flat frequency response. They're used a lot in orchestral recording, nature recording, the 800 or 8000 series, a lot in nature recording because it's very flat response. What's really neat, I'm going to have to figure out how to play this. This is standard 2-element mic. You could choose your polar pattern here, but what we like to do in a lot of cases is use this guy. This is very similar 2-element mic, but instead of having the switches that give you your polar pattern, you'll actually get your 2 elements directly out. So this has little 4 dongles here. This is 2 elements directly out, front capsule, rear capsule. What does that allow you to do? Well, it allows you, by using your faders and, oh, speedy delivery. Look at this, Neumann studio monitor. That's great. I'll take another one. So what that allows you to do on your mixing console or your DAW is via the relative positions of your 2 faders and the phase switch, you can now create any balloon pattern that you want for that microphone. So you could do that real time as you're recording, or you could just record the dry, straight up capsule, and then you could do it in post. Make sense? This is one of my favorite microphones to do a demo on and play with, just because you can do it live with the 2. You know, instead of the switches and hard-coded, you can record something, and then as you're playing it back, and you're going, you know what, it's a little bit too roomy, I'm going to tighten up the pattern. Or I'm going to flip the pattern and see how it sounds with a figure 8 or whatnot. Really cool microphone. I think I'm going to bypass this. This is a cool little video that shows you by changing those fader settings with the phase, it shows you the different balloon, but I'm not going to take the time to actually play that today. So that makes sense? So this is kind of the recording side. We talked about microphones. We talked about Ambeo for that spot kind of treatment. We talked about when you've got more time and more ability to put up more microphones to recreate something, you got that. The next exciting thing, and this was just announced recently, and I meant to try, well, I did try to get one of these to show you live here as a demo today, but they're in pretty high demand, and I was not able to get one at this point. So this is the Ambeo Smart Headset. So now we're offering this, this headset, put in your headphones, plug it in with your lightning connector to your iPhone or whatever device, and we've added microphones on the ears. So like that Neumann Fritz had, that KU100 before, you become a recording device. And you might think, it was kind of funny, internally there was a discussion that we're going to come out with this. We don't know really how or where it's going to be used, but it's a neat idea. Let's see what happens, was kind of the theory behind this. Now, I also tried to get this video. I don't have the video, but I saw a video about a year ago that we actually did a recording. So somebody took this headset, a prototype, took their phone, walked around a town, not Times Square, but a town square, and did a video recording like this walking around. And I remember seeing it as a teaser. I did not know what they used to record the audio with this, but what was astounding is how many of you have taken videos of your phone and gotten various degrees of audio to go with that. I do live sound and stuff. I occasionally take videos of my shows, and sometimes it sounds okay and other times it doesn't sound okay. You know, it is stereo, but there's not much feel, there's not much depth. Well, now this uses your ears as the head-related transfer function, and if you're constantly turning like this while you're taking your video, now you can encode that directionality and that experience that you're getting directly into your recording. So I mentioned this recording that I heard, this town square. Somebody was walking around and was looking at a fountain, water fountain that was going, you know, and looking at the water fountain, and then turned, and it was people running around and a kid on a skateboard and some kids playing. And as they panned the shot around, the audio all followed that, just as if I was there experiencing it. So I think this is like retail $299. You know, it's not inexpensive, but it's also not expensive for that application. If you're shooting a lot of videos, this is a really neat thing to add to your arsenal there. Pretty neat? And it does work. Okay, so that's the input side. Only have a couple minutes left to talk about the output side, but we'll do that really quick. If you're into this market and the recording techniques and the mixing techniques, I want to point this out. Jump on our website, because there's a whole network and a whole world that's talking about 3D audio, about Ambeo, about these solutions, not only on the input side, but the output side. Again, I talked, you know, you can, it says pick your blueprint, you pick what your application is, and it will kind of guide you in that direction for what you need to think about for these different applications. We're coming out with this box. This is actually not officially a product that we're selling yet at this point. It's still in development, but this is a box that can take your ordinary stereo mixes and do some magic to it and make it surround you in a 9.1, well, I say 9.1, it's actually 5.1.4 if I'm using the right term. So 5 speakers around you, 1 subwoofer, 4 height speakers as well. So this will take a standard stereo recording, plug in your iPhone, plug in your whatever into it, and expands it out into a multi-channel application. Something that's still in the works. I have heard this. It is very impressive. I don't know what kind of magic they're doing to make that happen when the original recording is not there to actually re-record. Obviously, when you're taking an original recording, it's a little bit easier if you can just mix it natively. Of course, playing back, we'll talk about technologies for headphones and things like that. That's all coming. But what we do most recently is we partner with our Neumann side, and we have these. Is anybody familiar with the KH series of studio monitors? Okay, so history of this, Neumann everybody knows for microphones, been in the microphone business for pretty much ever. So about 8, 9, maybe 10 years ago, there's a company in Europe and Germany called Klein and Hummel. They were very big in the high-end studio monitors. Sennheiser actually bought them out. Sennheiser Neumann bought them out and retooled a lot of the workings of the company, took the expertise of the studio monitor brand, folded it into the Neumann brand, and actually brought it up to Neumann quality standards. So everything has been kind of reworked, redesigned, and come out as Neumann KH line, giving nod to Klein and Hummel, the KH line studio monitors. We've got studio monitors for pretty much any of your applications. This doesn't show, this is the 120. We also have this KH80, which just started shipping a couple months ago. Really cool, small form factor, sounds 10 times bigger than it actually is. And of course, wearing the brand Neumann, you know it's gonna sound great and be of high quality. So recently, last week, I was just at AES, and that's where a lot of audio engineers get together to talk about crazy things like surround. Surround or immersive audio was absolutely the buzzword of the show last week. And this is what we did. Originally, I was thinking I would try to do something like this here, but in 30 minutes, not enough time. There's all sorts of things going on today that wasn't the right day to do it, but I would think sometime in the future, you know, check your email or something. We'll probably come back in and set one of these systems up here to actually have you experience some of the output. So this was the demo room that we had, and you notice we had the setup. The left, center, right, up in front, we had subwoofers. Actually, these 2 subwoofers were on. This was just an expensive stand, an expensive subwoofer stand. The rear surrounds back there, and then the height surrounds. And here we took some recordings. That picture I showed you of that orchestra was actually from that recording that was then mixed down into this dimension. We also had some recordings from a couple of famous mix engineers, took some well-known recordings that we've all heard a million times and remixed them for this format. So again, I apologize I can't let you experience it. I don't have it here to experience it this week, but I can tell you from the turnout, you know, we started with about 2/3 of these seats filled on the first one, and by the end of the week it was standing room only. As word got out, hey, you should go listen to this and experience this. And when you add these height speakers, it brings you back into this world that you can imagine that this stuff was recorded in. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay, questions? This is the world of Ambeo. This is the future. This is where we're going. Some of the things we're working on.
Do you remember the in-the-ear recording process?
What's that?
The in-the-ear recording process.
Okay, what do you mean? Do I remember it?
You familiar with it?
I'm not sure. What do you mean?
You took 2 very small microphones and put them in your ear.
Yes, yes.
And you did the same thing.
Yep.
As the ambisonic microphone, although you had to have a human being involved in the process.
Yep, similar to the new Ambeo headset.
It made truly 3-dimensional,
Yep.
360-degree recordings.
This
is back in the early 80s.
Yep, we had, at that time, we had, are you guys familiar with our Mickey 2 lavalier microphone?
Oh, dozens of them.
It's not this one. It's a much smaller version, but very popular, industry standard for years. We had a version of that was essentially a stereo pair, small lavalier microphones that went up in your ears to create that. I think we've got a new, improved, better version with this Ambeo smart headset that's out now. But yeah, very similar technology.
The predecessor to that was Doug Jones, who had LEDR, which is the method of taking a stereo pair and making them go much wider and much more back and much more in front. And that predated the in-the-ear.
Yeah. Yeah. Neat.
I'm an old guy.
Yeah, no, that's good. Any other questions, comments?
Well, a couple of things.
Yes.
One I was asked, are you working on any second-order ambisonics?
To my knowledge, for those on the recording, the question is, are we working on any second-order ambisonics? I don't know currently right now. I would venture to say that we're not currently, but good question.
Well, what would a second-order ambisonics be?
It's more capsules in a slightly different pattern.
Said
So
four
more
and a
than
tetrahedral,
four.
yeah,
What's that?
More than 4.
More than 4, yeah, it'd be 8
8.
in a slightly different, larger pattern. The problem is, as you go there, of course, the cost gets crazy, and some of the other competitors on the market that are doing that, the costs go, skyrocketing. We started here, and we like our results in terms of the spatiality that you can get. Obviously, if we add more, then we can resolve to finer detail, actually in the audio world and not in the conversion world.
What about interaction or reflections between the 2 levels of capsules?
We don't have to really worry about that. The way these are picking up, and then in the conversion process, it balloons them out into the balloon. So I mean, really, in theory, from like a shading perspective, you'd think there'd be some more shading from the bottom and all this stuff here, but in reality and in perception, it works pretty darn well. Other questions?
It's more of a feature request.
Yes,
For your
okay.
conversion tools,
Yes.
currently you're only able to do the horizontal correction and hoping to be able to do both hand, tilt, roll.
Both, okay, 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
I would think, I don't know for sure, but I would think that's something that we'll be looking at.
I
Yep.
can do it, right after I do the A to B, so after B, then I can take that and then roll it.
Yep.
but Figured if we could do it right in.
Yep. Well, you know what? I take that back. That in our plugin we do the 2 dimensions, or the 1 dimension, excuse me. But I know we can do it because I have had some of our demos where I could go like this with head tracking, and it actually followed.
It's not that it's not there, it's more of to be able to reorient
Yes.
right in the plugin.
Yep.
Because I know you can take and you can choose like you can up, down, or forward.
Yes.
But to be able to then take that and go, well, I just want to rotate it back up.
Yep. Yep.
It's just a, feature.
Yeah. Good.
Currently I can get around it.
Yeah. Yeah. Other questions, comments? Kind of cool stuff? It's kind of like it's starting to happen now, but it's a little bit more in the future. When I first saw this about a year ago, it really took me a while to kind of wrap my brain around it, and it's taken me a lot more demos and a lot more, experience seeing how it's being used to really, find that path of what it can be used for. So thanks for spending a couple minutes with me. Thanks for coming out to the 40th anniversary at Full Compass. We'll be around the next couple days, so if you have any questions, check out our booth, Sennheiser and Neumann toys. If you get a chance, we've got some Neumann studio monitors in a couple of the studios. Again, thanks for coming. Thank you.